Good morning, everyone. I'm that dude over there, and I cannot shut up about Last Defense Academy, a game from the creators of Danganronpa and Zero Escape with 100 unique endings. But all that ends today because today I'm going to do something that no one has done before, except for maybe a few people. I will be ranking all 101 endings of 100 line Last Defense Academy. Now, of course, I hear you saying, "Shut up, you dumb nobody! There's only like 100 endings and nobody knows who you are." And first off, you hurt my feelings. Take it back. Second, actually, there are technically 101 because Route Zero exists, which is basically the prologue. So if you're ready to put this chapter of my life to bed until the inevitable DLC comes out, then strap in. This is going to be a long one. So before we begin, since I'm going to get all my thoughts on this game out, I'm going to add 3 more rankings into this video at different times. Again, this is just so I can get all my thoughts out all at once. These rankings will be displayed differently than the main endings, and will appear sporadically throughout the video. Hopefully I remember timestamps so you can skip between them. Also, by the time I'm writing this, 2 months have passed since I last touched 100 line, so all the details are going to be a bit fuzzy. On top of that, a lot of endings are subject to change, along with my opinion on said endings. The only ones that I feel confident on are the top spots and the bottom spots. So, instead of starting with the endings, let's start with the characters. From the bottom up, my least favorite character in this game, not including Veshnes or the other generals you go against, is probably Nigo. Now, I think the cast of Last Defense Academy is really cool. They all have impactful moments even when they don't have a whole route going for them. However, that being said, this lackey, who I keep thinking is a girl, is probably the least important character outside of Route Zero. Nigo definitely feels like Cirei Light. And while he doesn't exactly piss me off, he is bland and contributes to my least favorite routes in this game. Taking the 18th spot, I have Kyoshika. While I love her combat abilities, I find her quirks getting old really fast. I get that she was, raised very seclusively and learned a lot from her interactions from manga and anime, but I just find it more annoying than comedic. But that being said, I like how genuine her relationship is to the Holy Jumanji Sword, even if it skirts between the lines of Yuri fanfiction. How would that even work? After Kyoshika is Cirei. Cirei I would have initially thrown at the bottom simply for being an antagonistic force similar to Veshnes. However, with some time, I grew to understand another perspective, seeing that Cirei is just as much trapped along with the rest of the students in the conflict, that the only thing powering his will of humanity being the genuine love he holds for Shion. Does that excuse any of the behavior he shows? Not really, but I like how interesting this makes Cirei as a character. Much more interesting than the other mascots like Monokuma or Shinigami for me. Number 16, and it's everybody's favorite orphan, Gaku. Now, I can somewhat understand all the positives for Gaku. He cares for everyone deep down despite his selfish tendencies. Is the character that would go to great lengths to boost morale for the Special Defense Unit, and wants to provide for those he considers his family, even if they don't recognize his efforts. Gaku is very much a mother hen in that regard. However, that being said, I still think he's really annoying. Freaking out over the smallest issue, being heavily paranoid and antagonistic at times, and overall feeling like a nuisance. I will never forgive him for how much he wasted my time in the exorcism route. Overall though, okay character to me. Next, the apocalyptic maiden herself, Mokuma Jiro. First off, I love how she was used in Route Zero. Really cool. On top of that, I think she's really funny, providing me with a good number of laughs throughout the game, while also being a good support unit, socially, not in combat. Also, I like how her attitude contrasts to her physique, acting like this innocent demoiselle that could also twist you into a pretzel if you break her or any of the other women's heart in the STU. I think the major reason she doesn't rank higher for me is that unlike the other characters, she doesn't leave a strong enough impact on me. Not in a sense that she doesn't leave an impression or isn't a strong enough character to stand out, but in a sense where the other characters can get me hooked on what they're doing or their impacts on the narrative. Moko feels like the world's greatest support, and it feels like that way in the story, because the only route where I can remember Moko having a big role also happens to be on a route where Moko plays referee to a love war between Takumi and 3 other love interests. Anyway, at number 14, I have the baby. The flame baby, Shion. Now, Shion doesn't show up often in the story, but whenever he does, it always feels important. I love how he gets teased in Route 0 and leaves Takumi in this route with his hope to be friends with everyone. And I will never forget how he was used in Killing Game Route, where in the bad end of that route, he goes to extreme lengths to ensure Takumi doesn't leave with everyone. I guess the only con I can think of with his character is that he does feel a little bit bland compared to the rest of the cast. Moving on, we have Tsubasa. Tsubasa is the nicest and sweetest member of the SDU. I personally didn't like her gimmick in the first 100 days because I just didn't like her throwing up over the smallest transgression. But with the context of the other 100 routes, I was glad that it stopped being so prominent. Or at least it was heavily toned down. Also, among the cast, Tsubasa single-handedly carries the SDU. Like, without her, a lot of the group's plans could not come to be. Professional bus driver extraordinaire, along with building the sole device capable of holding the baby, on top of repairing the escape pod when it gets broken down. I've grown to appreciate her a lot more than my initial impressions. In number 12, we have the only self-identifying Futurin on the list, and it's Ava. I love that she has this motherly presence when she gets to be herself, and I love her reason to fight, and that being that it's simply to protect Commune. I also find her interesting in the fact that this is supposed to be the big bad sister. But that being said, this is when we actually get to see Ava. Most of the time, we only see the compliant peon that C-Ray turns her into. In fact, I'll say this, actually reflecting on this, if we're just discussing character alone, I think I would put Tsubasa ahead of Ava, but if we're talking about character and story, I think Ava is a more interesting character. It's only right that as we get to the middle of the list, we find Nozomi and Takumi right next to each other. Like with Ava, I think Nozomi is really cool in regards to her impact on the greater story of Last Defense Academy. A member of humanity coming to willingly fight on the front lines, developing her hemo anima from her mom, who played Sudoku after humanity decided her research was irrelevant. I just think her daily life and interactions with the rest of the cast is a bit bland and occasionally predictable. To me, when there's a situation that doesn't directly involve an element with Nozomi's backstory, she feels like the love interest archetype. But that being said, I'm not saying Nozomi isn't a badass in her own right. She has multiple scenarios where she takes charge and proves herself as a capable member of the SDU. And being the only unit that not only heals, but also removes fatigue status, makes her invaluable to the battlefield. As for Takumi, I think he flip-flops on being above or below Nozomi. At some points, Takumi gets a real good laugh from me and contributes well to the team. However, at some points he can really piss me off with how stupid he can be. Like, the start of the Killing Game route feels so weird. Like, it feels so out of character for Takumi to make this choice. In any case, Takumi feels like a good protagonist. I even like how different he is compared to the other protagonists in Kodaka's games. And by that, I mean that Takumi is an idiot. He doesn't think things through a lot compared to the characters like Shuichi or Yuma. However, I would go as far to say that he has more personality than Makoto or Hajime. Granted, we have been with Takumi for 100 rounds, and Hinata is only getting his second scenario sometime this year. Anyways, further up the ladder, we have Kako. Honestly, on first impression, Kako is the better of the two Tsukumo twins. I like how normal she is compared to Ima, and while still being a standout from the cast, I think the major complaint I have with her mostly aligns with the stuff I'd say I dislike about her brother. I just don't like how they address each other. The brother-sister-dearest thing gives me the ick. But I'll go more into that with Ima. Kako is a pretty good character, so she makes the number 9 spot. Now you might wonder if Ima is next, but actually it's Darumi. Now, initially I thought Darumi was the best character solely because I thought she was funny. I thought that Darumi was your stand-in for every Kodaka fan being like, Danganronpa 86, when? But what really elevated Darumi for me was her character outside of her theatrics. Her two really standout routes in Red Snum and Killing Game really let me see how great Darumi is under the surface, allowing us to see how sweet she is behind her killer clown makeup. While I don't think she's the best girl, I think Darumi really deserves the love. And after one psychopath, we have the other psychopath in Yugumu. Now, Yugumu is already impressive as the story goes. He's the one responsible for creating all the poison to take care of threats like Veshness or Dalsha. Honestly, it's a shame that Yugumu's most impactful moments, or character-focused ones, are related to the routes where Edo is dead. Because in one route, we just see the moments before he loses his mind and tries to kill someone, and the other, he shows us how great of a companion he can be, even if it's just to study Takumi and his reactions to absorbing Eito's emo anima. Regardless, I like this one-eyed assassin. Just shy of the top 5 comes the homie of all homies, Takamaru. I love this man in the straightest way I can. I love how he's always looking out for the little guy and constantly pumping people up. I love the dynamic between him and Shoma shouting out the iconic line, "No guts, no glory." Honestly, Takamaru is the realest person anyone can have on the team. Even when Takamaru goes against the team, he never does it without good reason. Overall, Takamaru is the biggest friend with a scary demeanor. In kicking off the top 5 characters, I put Mr. Tsukumo himself. Now, like I said, his attitude toward his sister is genuinely unappealing to me, and the sus things he does with Kako does require the police to get involved. But that being said, I love this little gremlin. He got balls of steel to just stab a dude if he threatens his sister, all with that same smile on his face. Bro is such a dick writer for Kako that he's willing to not only play Watson for her, but actively goes out of his way to kill people if he thinks it'll keep her safe. Also, Bro is a massive instigator. I love how he's willing to torment people for no real reason, and I'm saying this more for his dynamic with Gaku. Number 4 is Shoma Genzaki, and this one is a little bit hard for me to talk about because I personally really relate to this character. Without getting too much into it, I relate to his feelings about self-confidence and self-worth. And I like that we get to see Shoma, this character who really does care a lot about people, even down to the future ends of Ava, and even to the Gi at one point, seeing it as a pet. I love his caring demeanor, and the fact that he's willing to try every day is very good, especially after Route Zero, where he is constantly putting himself down. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I had to record this way later than the rest of this, which you'll probably notice. Okay, but enough of the dark stuff that'll leave me lying awake at night, wondering if I overshared anything. In number 3, I have Kurata. Now, I'll be honest, Kurata is a tsundere. I personally don't like tsunderes, but I like how she develops across the various timelines. I like how we see Kurata actually grieving when you pick her over Gaku to survive. I like seeing her rekindle her friendship with Nozomi after the truth threatens to break it, and I love how she actually has the skills to back up her pompous attitude. I don't really like it when people talk trash and act all high and mighty, but don't have the skills to pay the bills. She's the kind of character that can beat you up or buy your house just to burn it in front of your face, and she provides a lot of support in the different timelines. She's honestly pretty goated, and I would go as far to say she's the best girl. That is, if we didn't have like 2 other spots on the list. I have 2 characters that kind of fight for the top spot on this list. I could flip on who I actually prefer and not on the flip of a dime, but these are my placements. At number 2, we have Eito Atsuki. Eito is just Nagito in another skin. Bro is just 5 steps ahead of you and will call you ugly to your face. And I love how even at the smallest issue, Takumi blames this guy for existing. Did you stub your toe? Eito shifted the furniture just a smidge to the left so you would do it. Did someone draw a dick on your face? Eito gave the guy a permanent marker so it wouldn't come off easy. Did your wife show up late to dinner looking exhausted like she got back from a run with her hair all messy and her makeup all smudged? Well, it was Eito who threw a banana peel in the middle of the road that caused a traffic accident, which resulted in a half-an-hour delay if you were going by car. Also, he slashed the tires to her car and set up a signal jammer so your wife couldn't call anyone for help, making her run like a jackass. Honestly, I don't know where I was going with all this. My point being, I love this little rascal. I even love that there's a branch to the second ending where we explore Eito alone. It makes him so much more fascinating as a character. But number one, and I definitely think this is recency bias and how I did my routes, but it's Hiriko. For a character who dies easily in the first timeline and left me feeling nothing but disdain for her, she's actually pretty sweet and smart. She has multiple moments across all the different routes where she's helping Takumi and the cast, even if it's not in the most direct way. For example, Hiriko getting Sirei to calm down after Takumi elopes with Ava, or Hiriko helping Takumi and Yugumu establish a proper resistance against the mastermind in the Killing Game round. And while there were so many moments that made me interested in her character, the steady fundamental route is what really sold me on Hiriko. How Hiriko purposely messes with Takumi, so we never see Ni ghosted in talent. To her using the damaged leap suit to ensure no one suffers leap damage except her when pursuing their golden ending. Hiriko catches me off guard time and time again with how much she truly cares for everyone, or more specifically Takumi. Okay, that was 10 pages of character rankings that'll make people who wanted an ending list mad as hell. How about we actually dive into the video now? But how am I gonna do it? I don't want to do it like this. Just gonna leave me burnt out to hell and back. What do I do? What do I do? Well, you know what? I'll do what any normal person does when they're in doubt. Steal my ideas from better people and claim it as my idea. It's such a good idea, and it always works.
Disappointment in the game of life.
This is the only time I'm doing this, but there is an 8-way tie for last place, and it's purely because I hate this route, and that route is the conspiracy route. You can ramble on to me about how the hidden meeting or some bullshit about it, but I think this route just sucks. You'll have to follow a uniform path, or you're treated like Hassan's dog and put in place by either Nigo or Sirei.
去年了，放我走，他们非要我看。
What the fuck are you saying?
Kaya, please!
But if you manage to get to the end, well, you're fucked anyway. Because Goto, sorry, that's the person taking over Nigo. Anyway, Goto basically reveals that the information he provided was all a lie anyway. Like, it doesn't even matter. So it's not only not fun, but you're not getting anything interesting out of it. So yeah, this is the bottom of the list. Okay, so just above the routes that genuinely disappoint me are the routes that end in a direct bad ending. Not in a sense that you're just led to a bad ending, but more in a, if you select this, you instantly get punished kind of way. So endings like Explosion and Academy Destroyed will be here. Explosion occurs on the mystery route when you fail to guess X's identity. Meanwhile, Academy Destroyed occurs when you put in a code that blows up the school instead of getting you the escape pod like you wanted. Mother Ocean is above these two, but not because it's an instant bad end. No, instead, Mother Ocean suffers the crime of being unfunny. Like, the humor of the route comes from everyone having fish heads and the enemies growing clams on their body. The only laugh I really got was watching Karara having a can head because of her fish head combining with her tomato mask, making a can of tomato fish, whatever. And in this ending in particular, the SDU returned to the ocean after the war, which isn't so much as funny as it is bizarre. From there, we have Dance of the Purple Flames, Too Late for Regrets, and The Value of Trust on the Mystery, Ret Snub, and Box of Blessing routes. Now, I also have the Dream Come True ending too this low, and for me it's just because I don't see the romance potential of Kyoshika and Takumi. Unlike the others, I don't think Kyoshika and Takumi's time together sold me on a believable romance, especially compared to Tsubasa, Karada, or Nozomi. Unending Nightmare and Failed Alliance come after, and those two annoy me for a couple reasons. In Unending Nightmare, it presents this choice of finding another way to save Nozomi without losing Shion, only to lie to you and say, nah, get rejection syndrome, bitch, and fry Nozomi from the inside. Kurara hates you, the team's divided, and when you fight Veshness, Takumi commits Sudoku because he couldn't save her. It's just bullshit. But Failed Alliance feels worse because it feels almost out of character with the heel turn. I was confused when they offered a choice here, and this ending just gives me whiplash. Like, why would we suddenly backstab Commune when it was our idea to bring her here? I'm sorry, it's all so silly to me. Alright, where was I? Alright, next is the ultimate slapstick, followed by, no, that's wrong! Both were just unfunny, but unlike Mother Ocean, I was okay with everything leading to these endings. Pinky Promise is next, and it's another you picked the wrong option ending, resulting in Ava killing everyone with her pinky finger bombs. This is then followed by Howdy Neighbor, Embrace Fantasy, Terminated Sumino, and Round 1 Loser. Don't have much to say about these endings other than you died, womp womp. With the exception of Embrace Fantasy, that is, I feel like there's not a lot to gain from these endings. Howdy Neighbor, don't trust Ado. Round 1 Loser, protect Darumi no matter what. It just feels like more bad endings for the sake of having bad endings. And this sentiment is shared with Night of Despair, Lost in Darkness, and Face Reality. Though I will say, of the two casual route endings, I feel like Face Reality is the better of the two endings, which isn't really saying a lot. But Graduation Day was something I wasn't happy with. Graduation Day, for the unaware, is an ending on the romance route, and it just sucks. First off, I hate harem-esque situations in anime. Second scenario completely kills this route for me, but I'll save that for later. Honestly, I just think that Takumi should have made a decision or just told them that he wanted to be friends. Because this feels like Takumi is just dragging Kyoshika, Tsubasa, and Kurara along. After Revenge for Moko, we get probably Gaku's worst appearance in the Exercise Plan ending. I hate how Gaku and Takumi are acting like idiots and how it eats up a lot of your free time. Honestly, I'm with the rest of the group by the end of this route where they don't even want to associate with these two. From there, we have A Kind Heart, Well Done, then As Good as Dead, and The Revenge of Kakuji. Actually, that ending is bullshit. How could a fucking coin toss lead to a geeked up Kako killing everyone? That's so stupid. And I have a personal vendetta against this ending because this was the last ending I got in the game, period. I hate coin tosses now. But now with all that said, I think we can finally break out of D tier. D tier. It literally only had death options and it ended after the 69th placement. Funny. Anyway.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Alright, time to kick off C tier with more whimpers than a bang. Because 68th place is the consolation ending. Honestly, I don't hate how this ends. I'm just mad that it's not an option to have a good ending without choosing to romance someone. Yeah, I know it's called the romance route, but still, I like a route to have everyone just being buds, no matter how unrealistic or naive it is. At least we get teased with potential DLC routes with Moko saying she could romance Takumi. Next is the Academy Falls ending. I just think that it's weird that the team didn't collectively run away or try to form a plan of escape while fighting new gangs. Maybe I'm just forgetting something. Actually, I didn't even realize this was supposed to be an ending at first. I thought we were going to be hit with the calm down, it's just Turum Tanami's abilities line. But the fact that it wasn't seems so ridiculous to me, and I just can't believe that we died here. After this is the war is over, and I just didn't like this ending period. I mean, ignoring the route for a minute, I just don't see a reality where Takumi chooses a timeline where not everyone survives. Oh well, at least the art is good. The Coward's final days are next, and with how much leap damage Takumi suffers, I get not wanting to risk more damage. But at the same time, leaving Nozomi to die knowing full well she'd take a grenade to the face for you is just diabolical. Do I think Takumi deserved to die for it? Probably not, but then again, he did lose Nozomi for the group, so Yeah, my war, I'll give it this. I think this ending is better than Failed Alliance. The ending itself makes sense, and I'm not disappointed with how this one ends. And here's the thing, Seeds of Hope isn't that far ahead of it either. I think the reason I prefer this ending to my war is just Seeds of Hope ends with Takumi and Commune finding peace despite Nozomi's death. It sucks, but it's a small price to pay in my opinion. Taking a break from the story ones, the third ending for Dream Come True is good. Don't get me wrong, I think it's okay for a romance route. I think Tsubasa and Takumi's chemistry work better in other routes though. But when I saw this for the first time, I couldn't deny that there was something that could be done here. At least, I think it was better handled compared to Kyoshika. I think I prefer it because it really is just two people hanging out and slowly coming together. And in the polar opposite direction, unless you love the enemies to lovers trope, eternal hate. Because Takumi becomes so obsessed with killing Eito that he allows his anger to consume him until he kills the baby in the defense room. Personally, I think the idea of hate consuming the protagonist is better done in other media, but considering Takumi was under threat of losing himself, I'm not entirely surprised he went down this path. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of zombie stuff. I just don't like enemies that are mindless or parasitic like this, but to my surprise, I was actually sad with this one. It honestly is heartbreaking to watch as Takumi is unable to save Kyoshika from the Gi-infected SDU. God, I hate trying to talk about these endings because not only did I get all these endings last year, making it hard to remember what exactly happens in each route, but when I try to get a recap, the wikis are not up to date. I remember watching them again to make these rankings, but that too was a long time ago. Probably about a month or two before I actually started scripting this. I don't remember why I put this ending here in specific, but Better Off Without takes the 59th place. Unlike the other endings of Make a Choice and Instantly Die, I think this one is my favorite, or one of them. See, in this ending, Takumi mistakenly opens the boxes of Calamity and ends up dooming the SDU. I think why I like it so much is because it gives us a prelude to the Gi stuff, allowing us some insight as to what they do. But the inverse, I think, is better, reviving Kyoshika and Darumi in the Blessed with a Miracle ending. I think it's a perfect storybook ending to the scavenger hunt and the Boxes of Blessing and Calamity story. Sure, it's a bit bland, but it's better than everyone dying. But speaking of dying, that's what I wanted to do on the Cult of Takumi route. But despite how disturbed I felt witnessing it, I think they are incredibly interesting. I feel so bad for the SDU in this ending because they're essentially becoming brainwashed in order to serve Takumi's idea of being a hero. And the fact that we ended up using a brain device on Nozomi just because she went against us is so sad. Truly, how the mighty have fallen moment. Something inside, like with Cursed with Calamity, references the Gi stuff in a kind of I'll be back kind of way. And I love it. I think the reason why I prefer this one more is that it's still a happy-ish ending, unlike Calamity. And following in this is the tragic ending. Out of all the multiple Eitos routes, I think this one is the most bittersweet one. Because the team puts Takumi down without malice to his request. We get to see the friendly Eito mourning Takumi while the Eito in his head tells Takumi how much he hates him. Cute. Alright, more light-hearted stuff. My response is great because it gives Nozomi agency in her choice to reject or accept Takumi's feelings. I think Nozomi's decision makes sense, and it's kinda karma for Takumi breaking the hearts of 3 of the other SDU members. And the light stuff only lasts for that single entry, since now we have to talk about Here With You, an ending on the Veshnesh route. Now I definitely need to replay this route to better understand Veshnesh, especially after knowing how the other routes play, but personally the reason this route is so low is because I just hate the idea of the protagonist hooking up with the primary antagonist in any regard. Now, on look back, it isn't so obvious, but like I still don't like even the slightest touch of it, especially when Takumi knows how she killed Ima and Nozomi in the last 100 days. Now, of course, it's not really hooking up since nothing was confirmed, but are you really going to tell me that when this route also has a moment where Veshnes is trying to get Takumi to sleep in a bed for her? Either way, not interested. This ending is carried here mostly because of the other route than the ending itself. Echoes of the Dead is higher up here because of how trippy it is. The twist of Takumi and the others being dead at the end caught me off guard a bit, even if I knew it was coming. I mean, the fact that Takumi was constantly happy for several days on end, with little story changes, cued that something horrible happened. And I swear the only reason why Never Forget is above all of this is because of bias. I love Shoma, and seeing this dude die had me in shambles. Stop! Alright, now that I have your attention, we have officially made it halfway through the endings. Still in C tier, with this being our ranking so far. We're going to take a small break from the endings to discuss another quick ranking. If you don't care, skip to the timestamp. Otherwise, let's discuss a pointless tier list that only a small few people will actually care about in the end. Shipping. Now, I don't really care for shipping. I usually fall in line to what's canon or the most vanilla shit out there. But that being said, I do see the fun of talking about the chemistry between characters. So I want to talk about my least to most favorite ships in 100 line. Specifically with Takumi. It only makes sense since we spend the most time with him. Don't worry, this will be short. So there's only one ship that won't make it to the tier list, and that's Takumi x Eito. Because to me, this has all the fun of Hajime and Nagito in Danganronpa. People that generally don't like each other, secretly being super obsessed with each other, I recognize this is solely a crack ship. Because there's no way in hell that Takumi and Eito will ever see each other like that in any possible scenario. I mean, like, the only way I can see them being with each other in that dynamic is in some sort of comedy sketch where Takumi plays the ignorant dad while Eito plays the fussy mom as they look over the Tsukumo twins. But on a more serious note, as we actually dive into the list, the bottom for me is Kyoshika. I seriously just don't understand the romance angle between these two, and it's mostly because of Kyoshika herself. I personally think Kyoshika is a bit childish when it comes to love, and I don't think Takumi could provide that kind of affection that Kyoshika wants. Besides, we all know the only love for Kyoshika is with the Holy Jumanji Sword. Those two girls love each other and deserve to be with each other. Only slightly higher is Ava, and even then it's not by much. I think her and Kyoshika fight for the bottom for different reasons. One of them being that I feel like Takumi is in an inverse situation, where Takumi feels more immature compared to Ava. I mean, is that just a me thing, or does Ava just feel older than the rest of the STU? On top of that, a majority of routes where Takumi and Ava interact, Ava is under some sort of influence from the brainwashing device in the infirmary. I seriously think I need to reorder the bottom right now. Anyway, above these two are the characters where I actually feel something about their dynamics with Takumi, which I think is really funny considering we're about to talk about Takumi x Yugamu. I think this ship is mostly comical. I don't think Takumi likes Yugamu, despite Yugamu maybe having something for Takumi. That part's a bit up in the air depending on whether or not Yugamu actually loves any of the STU like that. I don't judge. Regardless, I like the two's interactions, and a lot of the reasons I could like this come from the Killing Game route. Speaking of characters that I grew to appreciate from the Killing Game route, Takumi and Tsubasa. Now, I'll be honest, I first came across this dynamic in the romance route. Steady Fundamental would have been my first route in the game if it weren't for the story locks, so going back and making a different choice made the romance route my first real route. From this route, I felt like I could see how these two come together, but I was on the fence since it was under the context of Moko's game. It's not until after Killing Game that I really understood this ship, because it made me realize that despite Tsubasa's high stress vomiting, she and Takumi are some of the most normal people in the STU. And before someone brings up Nozomi for being normal in this case, she's technically the only one different from the rest of the team, and has the whole Karua situation going on. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because they both play pretty good straight men to the cast. Post-editing here, I wanted to elaborate this point a little bit more because even going back, this sounded a little bland. But basically, I loved their dynamic because I thought they acted really cute together. On top of that, I love how much Tsubasa does to help Takumi, especially in the killing game route. I mean, Tsubasa is already probably one of the best characters in terms of how much they do for the SDU, but there's something about this dynamic that I'm like, aw, that's really cute. Anyway, going a bit higher is Nozomi. For one, I like the shared history angle that these two have. Even if Takumi learned it by his brain conjuring Karuwa, I like that these two technically have grown up together as childhood friends, despite their different circumstances. I think the only reason that I don't rank Nozomi higher is because she is kind of vanilla compared to everyone else. Sure, I'm someone that loves vanilla stuff, but that doesn't mean I always want vanilla, Anyway, let's jump into the opposite end and cover Takumi x Darume. I think the reason this one is high up is because it targets the sympathetic part of my brain. Because their interactions don't hit toward anything romantic. In fact, I would probably argue that these two probably wouldn't have any actual romantic feelings for each other. But because of what we, the player, know about Darumi across the routes, I want this for the I can fix her of it all. Oh god, I hate that I know what that feeling is. Ugh. Okay, so the difference between the number 1 and number 2 spot is recency bias. Because one I was a die-hard supporter of, and the other only came because of a singular route. So for number 2, I have Takumi x Karada. I love this dynamic. Of the 3 girls in the romance route, I found Karada's the best of the 3. I like the different interactions between Karada and Takumi across the different routes, and I love the honesty she has with Takumi when her mask comes off. Again, I'm not a huge tsundere fan, but Karada is the best girl, and I would defend this thing wholeheartedly. But she only loses the top spot because of Hiruko's dynamics with Takumi on Study Fundamentals. Hiruko was a character I thought nothing about, and hearing people talk about her as a ship with Takumi just felt strange to me. By the time I first heard of it, I was about midway through into the game, and while Hiruko was present, I never felt like they had any special bond like that. The closest I got was probably in Killing Game route. But once Steady Fundamental really kicked into high gear, I finally got to notice how much potential this really had. I mean, Hiruko went out of her way to ensure a timeline just so she could have a moment with Takumi outside of the school. And honestly, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel anything by the ending The Scent of Lavender. This route does so much to build up Hiruko and Takumi's relationship that I prefer them more than anything. Now again, this could very well be recency bias since Steady Fundamentals was my last route. But still, I love it.
I mean, it's alright, like, overrated as fuck.
Alright, so now after watching how I want Takumi's love life to go, we're skipping it, I don't judge, partially. Let's get back to the endings, starting back up with Burned Out. Of the comedy endings, this is where I start to enjoy them. I love Takumi's reaction to being rejected by Nozomi in this route. Bro is so dead that he looks like Sakura. It is pure this route. From comedy to tragedy, like all things in this world, Best Friends truly feels like the Takumi x Eito ship. I just love how it builds the complexity of Mr. Atsuki, someone who can only hear and see the ugliness of quote-unquote humanity, but finding his time deceiving the SDU and spending time with them being a time he actually enjoyed. Or maybe it was a lie. I'll never know, and I don't want to rewatch these endings again. Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't record a segment for this part. Number 47 is Bittersweet Youth on the Coming of Age route. Honestly, there are a lot of good moments on this ending. I think the only reason why it scores low is because it is your classic cheesy power of friendship moment where everyone is all like, we can do this, we can go. And meanwhile, Eito is in the background having a mental breakdown. Anyway, at least the background track is Hype as shit. But from tragedy back to comedy, At My Limit is the funniest thing ever. I love how this ending created an edit with Takumi flipping me off. It is the funniest shit I've ever seen. I think the only reason why it doesn't rank higher is because I find some of the antics a bit annoying. Like Nozomi looking at Takumi like she's ready to eat him. But shout out to White Boy Rapping. You go, Shoma.
I'm so damn weak! A real life freak with a nasty reek! Only trip I've got is the piss out leak!
One Step at a Time I like mostly because Takumi takes responsibility over Ava's demise, choosing to deliver an apology to a village that won't exist very soon over a safe departure into space. Again, been a while since I last played it, so if I'm missing details, I'm sorry. But you know what ending I didn't forget? Revenge on the slasher route. I love how Takumi gets killed by Nozomi, the one person who trusted him most of all, on top of the idea that the Gi is controlling Takumi, preventing him from doing what he wants, is super cool. I love how it influences gameplay where Takumi runs in the opposite direction than you press. Escaping Our Fate is next, and on concept, I love the ending. I think that Takumi's romance with Tsubasa at this point is a little too much, but beyond that, pretty good, and the haunting image of Takumi with the husk of Tsubasa, all the while the hornet is sucking from her body, is truly horrifying. I hate it, it's perfect. Meanwhile, Thank You, I love, because of the characterization it gives to Ava. If this girl loves something and truly wants to protect it, I love that she has the ability to overpower Veshness. Gaku's harem is also here, and despite my dislike for this poor boy, he made truly the funniest ending on the Box of Blessings route. I love how he saves the day and disappoints you all in one fell swoop, leaving Takumi and Eito baffled at how this turned out. Truly a masterpiece of an ending. It Was You is next, and I can say on first playthrough, I was so pissed when we didn't get to see the face of the killer. I was dying to know, and I felt so robbed by not knowing who it was. But this time, after completing the game, oh man, I think this ending is so much better. First off, I like how we get the misdirect of steady fundamental Takumi dying and us seeing Nozomi's point of view. But I can't imagine the thoughts running through her head when Nozomi is dying and looking up only to see the person she thought was dead killing her. Someone she believed wanted to protect her. It is wild. Anyway, Okay, I See is the next ending on the list. The reason I prefer it more to At My Limit is because I think the idea of Takumi short-circuiting after realizing his efforts were in vain is a lot funnier than having the ultimate crash out. After that, we have a tie, and this is because this is as high as I'm willing to put a romance route ending. I couldn't in good faith put this any higher, and that is both of Kurara's endings. Putting them in A tier didn't feel right, but of the romance endings, I think Kurara's is the most solid. The only difference between Kurara's endings is if you prefer a cute romance or want Kurara to step on your balls. One feels ideal, but the other feels like truly understanding what it means to be with Miss Uzuzuki. We have two more endings to round out B tier, and that's One More Time and Visitors from Day 100. Going in order, One More Time is this high because I like how it shows Takumi's resolve. He wanted to succeed and get to Day 100 with everyone, and even after doing it for 200 days now, almost 50 to 60 of those days like adrenaline junkies with how often they were fighting, Takumi still chooses to go back in time. I think it's very respectable how Takumi chooses to avoid a happy ending just to save everyone. Well, again, it shows he's not a hypocrite and actually means what he says. As for Visitors from Day 100, I was just confused. Like, it was a happy ending and all, but it felt so undeserved. Like, I think this, along with like two other endings, are canon according to the SF route, but on first playthrough, it just seems strange, you know? Honestly, it feels like it only gets better because of Steady Fundamental, which just makes the ending feel a bit cheap, at least to me, but everything leading up to it was good, so whatever. It just can't break into A tier, I guess. But speaking of the elusive tier,
This right here is my favorite thing ever. in the history of forever.
The Calamity route always kind of confused me, especially when it came to the ghastly looking Ava that follows us around. To know the truth that it came from his guilty conscience was interesting to say at least, but I put Ghost Unmasked and Blood on My Hands this high for really one reason. The revelation before the ending decision that Hiriko can leap between timelines as well. I love it, and it acts as a great point of reference for Hiriko's last leap. Seeing this link to serial killer and maybe another route, God, I just love it. As for these endings, I think they're okay. Maybe I rank them a bit too high, but whatever. I can't say that about the three of us. No, that's not me, you, and Team YouTube who has to keep this video up. I'm talking about the three of us, the ending. I think this ending is sad because everyone is doomed, and Nozomi, Shoma, and Kyoshika basically have to wander around before they meet the fate of the other Futurans from the missiles. A brighter future is after this, and can you blame me for putting a Shoma route this high? I love how he doesn't give up on Eito and holds onto his beliefs about ending the conflict peacefully. I like how he learns from Ava's tragedy and wants to support Eito like he couldn't for her. It's All Your Fault is incredibly depressing and makes me feel so much for Darumi. I really don't like seeing others beat themselves up over something like this, and to find out that this only reinforces Darumi's belief that all she brings is misery really hurts. It really left an imprint on me. But where this ending made me depressed, the next one left me disgusted and genuinely uneasy. Living Idol is the other ending of the Cult of Takumi route. It was bad enough watching an ending where Takumi was slowly corrupted by the devotion towards him. This one completely removes his free will after he chooses to leave his role. And it wasn't just enough to force Takumi through this, but the brutal death of Nozomi to the hands of the SDU left me appalled and sick. This ending is so fucked, but I can't deny what it made me feel, so it takes the 29th place. The stupidest ending ever got me to smile, and it's connected to an ending that I also like, so as a result, it goes high. Sometimes not all endings are winners, but some don't need to be special to be high on the list. The Wanderers, however, is higher than it though, because I think it's absolutely hilarious that not only does Takumi abandon all his friends, you know, the people he went back in time to save the first time around, but he abandons them for aliens. Bro got his dick wet once and chose Ava over humanity. Bro has a lot of power. But what's even funnier is the fact that he canonically has a child with Ava. He let Futurum decay just so he could continue experiencing the ultimate power of being with a woman. And don't think I'm not looking at Ava either. What the hell happened to Commune, dude? She was so excited to have a brother in the Killing Game route, but is nowhere to be seen when Ava's pregnant. Ava, didn't you vow to look after her like your own daughter? I promise you, no one, not even Takumi, is gonna make you feel that good that you would abandon someone. Holy shit, this is precious in all the funniest ways. But you know how I said the romance route would only make it to B tier? Well, I almost forgot about this entry, Living the Dream. And it's here for a similar reason to the last one. I would have marked it in D tier if it had gone through with Takumi's belief and believing in a relationship with all three girls. But the fact that Moko absolutely kills him for playing around with their hearts is a chef's kiss that sent me falling over laughing. Call it ranked higher than it should be, but I love it. If you're not noticing a pattern here, all these entries make me laugh in one way or another. This is the case with this ending and the next one. So Together Forever from Eito's route is toxic yaoi at its finest. Imagine Takumi trying to rizz up Nozomi for the millionth time, meanwhile Eito is in his head going like, bro, she's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Did you see the piece of spinach in her teeth? Oh, and she smells like she didn't brush her teeth. But I'm sure a nasty ass virgin like you is fit to date this repulsive monster. I mean, you shit yourself and didn't wipe your nasty ass good enough. Do you think she smells the shit hiding in your swampy ass? Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, it all worked out is similar to the stupidest ending ever. but one change makes it so much better. So rather than describe it, I'll just let the game talk for me.
To all of you sitting bewildered in front of your screens right now, allow me to explain the ending you just saw. Was it a real explosion? Or was it all a dream? Did everyone survive? Or did they all die in a blast? To thank you for spending your time on this ludicrous story, I'd like to tell you the truth. Psych! I'm not telling a shit! Suck on that! Die mad, losers!
Ah, so beautiful. Okay, I think that's all the comedy stuff taken care of. Now let's talk about all the endings that start to make me feel good. Yada, 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 yada. Not in a cozy, comfy kind of way, but in a, oh, this is really good and fascinating kind of way. Starting with Hollow Victory. I think that Nozomi's reveal came out of nowhere, but in a good way. Going back, knowing that Gi want frogs is a good giveaway for the infected, but it seems so ridiculous you can't help but wonder if it's just another thing from the timelines diverging. I like how much of a bummer it is with just Takumi, Tsubasa, and Hiruko surviving. I think I definitely overshot this one, but Battle for Ava's points gets this high purely for how Ava acts. I like how far she's willing to go for Nozomi after accepting her as her daughter. I like that Nozomi wants to find another way to get the points, connecting back to the fact that Nozomi has mommy issues and doesn't want to lose another one after getting another mommy. And I love how everyone gets involved for a fight just because of Ava. I think it could have been better done, especially with a CG instead of a model render of Ava, but for what it is, it's fine. Flight of the Living Dead. The team lost, they're infected by the Gi, and now they're heading to the satellite to continue their work. Love it and ship it. Endurance match breaks into the top 20, and that's because I love how Takumi and Eito's rivalry break into how many times can they die and hold on to themselves. I think what's even more surprising is that Takumi lost. I think it really shows Eito's mental fortitude and how much pain he can truly endure. It really shows how he could have broken out of the brainwashing in the coming of age route. The Veshness route is a beautiful insight into Veshness as a villain, but I think making the impossible possible is the better of the two endings, especially after the battle between her and Takumi. It really feels like Takumi left an impact on Veshness. The fact that she spares one of her commanders after a 6-day battle is proof enough that something about their conversations meant something. I don't know, I love this a lot. But you know what I love more? A cruel end for Commune. She was done dirty, and to see Nozomi lose everything because they chose to prepare for Dalsha over Eito is fucked. You know what I find funny? The Veshness route does a lot to paint our big dictator in a more human light. Misguided Pity does the same, but for our other antagonist in Nozomi G. I like that this is the only ending with the Gi alive that is remotely positive. It makes me wonder why the Gi is so kind here. I mean, when it possesses Takumi or Kako, we see it become a dangerous monster. But inside Nozomi, we get this as one of our endings. Now don't get me wrong, Nozomi G is responsible for her share of bad endings, but why is hers the only one that has an ending where it comforts Takumi at the end? Had it really killed Tsubasa and Hiruko by this point? I mean, did Nozomi G here just wanna pity Takumi? I mean, I just don't understand it, and I just find that so interesting. Like, it really just doesn't get anything out of this conversation. So it just makes me all the more interested to understand what this ending really means. Bet you weren't expecting this, but I actually have a place for ending 0, and it's right here. You may not count it, but ending 0 is just as important to all the other endings, in my humble opinion. It sets up the foundation for all the other endings to come afterwards. On top of that, it has things that you don't see in other routes, like Ima in Sirei's body, Demon Moko Mojiro. I think it's wrong to just discount it because it's not in the ending list. Anyway, back to the other endings. One massacre to another feels like Diet Golden Route. Like, if you wanted a golden route but didn't want to give out a golden route, this is what I would imagine. Honestly, with how many times Ava gets brainwashed throughout the game, I'd want to kill everyone too for burning my home and culture to the ground. What I like about the reset ending is that it truly feels like a new beginning. Tsure is free from mankind's influence for the most part, and everyone had their lives rewritten to help encourage their new lives on a hollow planet. If anything, I feel bad for the Futurans in this ending, because like how I explained before, their culture is gone and the STU have the responsibility of populating this world that isn't theirs. So close yet so far is one of my favorites of the Killing Game routes. For one, I love how petty Shion is. I mean, his logic is sound for how he treats Takumi, but purposely draining the escape pod of its fuel so the others couldn't leave is diabolical. Beyond that, great ending, and Hope from Despair is right next to it, both in decision and in quality. I like everyone coming together to defeat Veshness. I love everyone already planning for their future, especially since the Tsukumo twins actually make things remotely edible. History repeating, I love a lot for different reasons. For one, I love the misdirect of the ending. We saw in the Kyoshika version of this route that the zombies were going for blood, so to see them kidnap Takumi and infect him with the queen is insane. On top of that, the fact this goes on to impact the other routes left me amazed. Amazed isn't actually the right word. I guess excited works better, but whatever. I think the existence of Takumi G is so cool no matter what anyone says. I can't help it. It's just a weakness, I guess. I especially love this since I only got this scene after watching all the Gi issues that arose in Calamity Route. But that concludes A rankings. I love all these endings to some degree, but the top 10 are the ones I love more than any overall. They either involve a character I love or scenes that are so hyped that I just can't help but pog in my seat, bouncing up and down like a kid watching Super Saiyan for the first time, or Luffy walking to Arlong Park with the boys. So now, let's break into the top 10, starting with...
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
We Are One kicks us off, and this ending leaves me so sad but seen. I like how Retsnam has taken all the positive aspects of Darumi in order to attempt to create a new world for everyone to live in. Honestly, it just feels so sad but wholesome. In a way I just can't describe. I don't know, I'm Delulu. You shouldn't listen to me, and I shouldn't be taken seriously. Kurata's Last Stand is such a great ending. It starts with Takumi infected as a dead host and cornering Kurata. But by choosing mercy, Kurata goes sicko mode, taking the buzzsaw scene in the early parts of this route and absolutely goes to town, killing everything. And if it was just Kurara killing things, it wouldn't have mattered too much, but she's doing this all maskless. And Kurara is a lot more of a wimp without her mask. I love her final conversation with Takumi and just, I love it so much.
This bad ending can't have been what you came back for, right? Then use your power to redo it. Come back and save me. Save us all one more time. All right then. Goodbye.
Two Retstom routes in the top 10, but honestly, I don't mind. How Darumi felt is depressing but beautiful. I love how Darumi slowly gets devoured from the inside by Retstom until Retstom is simply piloting her body and mimicking her behavior. I also love how this version of Darumi produces the Ruby Tear, but only after she dies to the power of father-son flame attack. I don't fucking know. I feel so bad for Darumi, man. She is such a kind soul despite the hell she goes through. A form of toaster bath I love because it recontextualizes a route we saw before. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm not using the route's real name, it's because I don't want to get in trouble with Big Bad Daddy YouTube. They'll beat the hell out of me if I dare use the real term instead of shit like seppuku. Wait, no, I mean Sudoku. The idea of Takumi wanting to go back to save himself only to be countered by, himself is just ridiculous. I love how Takumi G even goes through the effort of putting on a replica class armor set from the Gift-O-Matic just to sell that he had died to the killer. Oh well, so much for Takumi wanting to save himself. The scent of lavender. Bro, I heard a comment somewhere about 100 line increasing the sales of lavender perfume. I didn't believe it until I saw this route. The fact that Hiruko doesn't let go of Takumi as his body succumbs to leaf damage is such a testament to the bond they grew throughout the route. I love how Takumi manages to survive just long enough to ensure everyone's safety from Veshnet. It's such a sad ending, but like the others, just so beautiful. The curse cycle is also this high up for similar reasons to a form of skinny dipping in a flood. The best part of this route is the fact that it explains the mystery timeline ending and why everyone comes back almost eagerly. However, the fact that it sacrifices the mystery timeline's ending knocks it down for me. But Hiruko's walk back to join Takumi when he dies in their timeline is also really heartbreaking. I love how it ties back to her dream of everyone escaping except for her. And to quote another game, it's just so
Marvelous!
funny enough. The top 4 are all from different routes. At least that's how they're labeled. But starting this is the only ending on the Goodbye Eito route. Praying for your happiness. I already adore Outsuki for the same reason I love Komaeda. I think they are incredibly interesting characters, so actually seeing inside Eito's head along with his blackened vision is so incredible. I love how even in his final moments, despite how much he hated humanity, and though similar, he still saved people. He still sacrifices himself for others' safety. Oh god, man, I just love this game. And Eito and his complexity is part of it. And number 3 is Goodbye Kiss. This ending blew my mind. I couldn't believe how many of the other routes were being connected here. I wasn't ready for the Hiruko lore drop and how far this rabbit hole really went. And it set me up to really enjoy Steady Fundamentals as the next route. It renewed my interest in this game when I was starting to get burnt out. And my god, the actual ending with Hiruko kissing Takumi as the missiles went off. I mean, damn, dude. I don't know what to say. I love this ending. But only one ending can make the number 1 spot. And while this ending is good enough to make the top 3, it's neither 1 or 2. Nah, predictably, the fight is between Steady Fundamentals, all 17 of us, and Second Scenario. Both of these endings are beautiful, purely because of how much effort the STU has to go through and what the endings mean for the STU that's involved. It was really hard to choose between these two, man. But in the end, if I had to choose which gets the silver medal, I choose all 17 of us. What I love about this ending is that everyone survives and we make it out of the 100-day loop. What I dislike about this ending is the route they use the escape pod on. They use the escape pod from the Killing Game route, specifically the one where everyone dies. However, what I hate about this is that the escape pod shouldn't have any fuel. I mean, like, it shouldn't work, right? On top of that, let's say that it magically regained its fuel because Shion refilled it after Takumi left. Why wouldn't this world Shion just cut the fuel again when he sees the steady fundamental Takumi? Shion doesn't know about all the hardships SF Takumi went through. All he knows is that Killing Game Takumi, who killed Eito and then went to kill him after. It's the logical break that makes the ending slightly worse for me. But despite this, I love how even if it's a golden ending, not everyone is happy. Ava has to be brainwashed, Eito has to be brainwashed, and humanity is probably going to be pissed that the STU didn't kill the Futurans or Futurum. Hell, we have to abandon our timeline just to survive. But despite that, we escape the cycle. Hooray! Now Takumi can get Ava pregnant again. Hell yeah. But then we get to second scenario. Oh god, second scenario feels like an ending in the truest sense of the words. Not only does it give us all the answers we could want from Last Defense Academy, but it also gives all the characters a proper send-off. I won't forget the scene where Takumi kills Shion with the ghosts of all the special defense units standing behind him. How the only way to guarantee the life of all the Futurans and Nozomi was to absorb all the cryptoglobin from all his allies and fight against the final defense system in the defense room. I love that Nozomi finds peace with the Futurans after days of walking on her own, and I love how Nozomi and Takumi have flipped positions when Takumi is dying. This is the best ending in the game, hands down. Maybe it's predictable, but hey man, it's not a theory, it's just the truth. Now, as we wrap up, we have one last ranking to do. What, you thought it was over? No, we gotta rank all the routes as a whole. Thankfully, this will be a lot easier since the number of routes is less than the number of endings. Alright, let's do this. Rapid fire. 19, Conspiracy Route. Absolutely hate it. Don't care what the route is trying to say, it's just not fun. Number 18, Casual Route. The route feels mind-numbingly boring until the final choice where you either continue this life until you die, or choose to be a protagonist and die like one. 17, Romance. Despite my love for some of the endings, the fact that you're railroaded for 90% of the route, paired with forced romance options, is kinda lame. You know, for a romance route, not being able to romance anyone outside of these three kinda sucks. 16, Serial Battle. Reverse issue of the romance route. Too many battles, no time to actually do anything, and a lackluster ending. 15, Box of Calamity. A lot of their endings feel samey and just kinda annoyed me more than endeared me. Number 14, Route Zero. It's the prologue and sets up the game. You don't get to see Moko, you don't get told anything, and it's standard normal route, whatever. Number 13, Multiple Atos. I hate games that are unfair, and the only ending that I really enjoy looking back is the Toxic Yaoi one. 12, Ava, character-specific romance route. Not particularly my favorite, but the humor of Takumi abandoning humanity for Fuji and the battle of Ava and Feshness make this route memorable. 11, Comedy. It's hit or miss, and with a bunch of better endings on other routes, it really doesn't leave too much of a mark. 10, Cult of Takumi. Dark and fucked up. Really loved it. 9, Killing Game. Petty Shion, Asshole Takumaru, and romance that I didn't think I was going to enjoy on first impression. Also, good work on getting me to actually care about Yukumu. Props. 8, Veshness. Both endings are fire. Only downside 2 endings. 7, Coming of Age. Good endings, but too shonen. 6, Mystery. Too many bad endings and confusing finale. Props for having it work in elements from Steady Fundamental. 5, Retsnum. Darumi deserved better, and Flowers. Also, her dynamic with Takumi is cute and wholesome. 4, Rebellion. The two better endings outweigh this one ending. However, the weight of the bad ending drags the route down as a whole. 3, Slasher. Goodbye Kiss, Karaos Lost Stand, and history repeating itself are high for a reason. Sure, there are dull endings, but the highs severely eclipse the lows. 2, I didn't want to individually have the single ending, so I lumped them all here, with the only con being that they're singular endings, with singular routes. So this is second scenario, Goodbye Atone, Reset. Number 1, Steady Fundamentals, all hits, no misses, ignore all the routes on the bottom because I said they were instant losses. And that, my dear viewer, is all my thoughts on this 500 plus hour game. Despite what the list would have you believe, I think this game deserves to be played with all the routes witnessed. Or if not like all the routes, then definitely a lot of them. And the best part, I don't have to bring this game up ever again. Hoopla!
Something else I've seen you talk about quite a bit online is that you've shown interest for creating a DLC for 100 Line, even adding more routes or new endings. I was kind of curious what you might be interested in exploring in those DLCs.
そうですね。本当こういう恋愛ルートとかSF ルートとかいろんなジャンルの内包してるゲームなんで、どんなストーリーでも逆に言えば増やすことができるので、本当思いつく限りのルートを増やして200、300、400という見たことのないゲームをね、今後10年ぐらい続くぐらいのゲームにしたいなとは思ってます。
Son of a bitch! I'm never finishing this game! I'm still gonna be reading about Takumi's sexcapades at the ripe age of 67. And if you want to tell me about my wrong opinions on this game and how Adamakyu is secretly the hottest commander, then why not let me know in the comments below? And while you're down there, leave a like and subscribe. It helps idiots like me who suck at promoting videos. And until next time, stay safe out there.